A new generation of European modernists, Le Corbusier, Walter Gropius and Mies van der Rohe, were attracting international acclaim with austere steel and glass constructions that were the antithesis of organic architecture. Wright, it seemed, was yesterday's man.
He was considered by many people to have been washed up, been finished as an architect. In fact, in 1932, the very important show, the International Style Show, was organized, and apparently Philip Johnson, who was one of the organizers, was asked if Wright should not be in the show, and Philip Johnson said, "Well, I thought he was dead."
But again, the fellowship came to Wright's rescue. In 1934, department store owner Edgar Kaufmann approached him with a commission for a summer house. Kaufmann's son had been a member of the fellowship and had suggested Wright's name to his father. The house became known as Fallingwater, and the story of how it was created has passed into architectural legend. Wright actually drew the plans from scratch in less than 3 hours, as the client was driving to inspect them.
Wright had not done any drawing of any sort before that moment that he would start down and do the whole plan, you see. Wright sat down on the drawing table, and Bob Mosher and I are on the other side of it, and he started to draw. And he drew the first floor, and then he drew the second floor, and then he drew the third floor, the top floor. Then he started to do that one big elevation. He was drawing so fast that he would break the pencils off. And Bob and I were just, the moment one was done, we'd have another one to hand him. But he was working, just plain working. He had it all in his mind. And he knew this would have to be something much different from anything else that he had ever done. He'd never done anything quite like this at all.
Kaufmann approved the plans on the spot, and Fallingwater became the most famous modern house in the world. Wright's career was resurrected almost instantaneously. Here was the hard evidence to back up the bold rhetoric of his autobiography, and to show that Wright, who was now nearly 70, was still a force to be reckoned with.
Fallingwater is often thought of as the great building of Wright's comeback in the 1930s. And there's no doubt that Wright was very conscious that he had to prove himself at that time. And he clearly picked up some of the ideas of the international style, in particular the floating horizontal planes. He raised the building off the ground and hid the supports underneath so that it looked a bit like Le Corbusier's pilotis. He had horizontal metal frame strip windows. He did the kinds of things that people could recognize as international style, but showed that he could transform them into his own way of thinking about buildings, not as mechanical objects, but rather as parts of the landscape.
Frank Lloyd Wright's modernism was different from European white international style modernism, which was much more severe, and much more reduced, much more mechanistic. He said much more flat-chested. He didn't like it. He thought it was rigid, frigid, and unattractive. Fallingwater draws on not only nature and the environment, but it draws on the past and our connection to the earth and the sky. It has the metaphor of life throughout. And for that reason, it's a much more popular building than the Farnsworth House of Mies van der Rohe or other modernist masterpieces.
And Fallingwater's extraordinary grace owed everything to Wright's first natural house, Taliesin.
Fallingwater comes so much out of Taliesin. The same stone work is used to give a sense of the building as literally being part of the wall of the glen, just like Taliesin looks like part of the hillside. And just as Taliesin started with the hill, in Fallingwater, the waterfall came first and the house came second. And this is absolutely crucial because the house then becomes, first of all, an extrusion of the site and then a magnification of the qualities of the site. So it's not just a waterfall. It's what a waterfall means in terms of life cycles, of mist and clouds and trees, of white water coming down in the spring, then dying off in the fall, snow coming, and then the whole cycle starting again.